Welcome to Voice of Reason.
Just as we know that insecurity is one of the main challenges confronting Nigeria at this time, and so the nation, individuals, organizations, socio-political, socio-cultural alike are in search of a solution to these particular problem confronting Nigeria at this time, which is insecurity. And so on the program this evening, I have an expert, a retired general in the Nigerian military. My guest on the program this evening served as a commander of the Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven in Jersey. Is retired General Henry Ayoola. A very good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
What will you regard as the primary causes of Nigeria's security challenges at this time?
Thank you very much. I'm happy you say primary causes because we want to start at it. Let's look at it from the roots, from the root causes. Primary in the sense that the underlying issues. Okay, the first I'll talk about is what I will call a disarticulate security architecture. I've had a lot of people talk about security architecture, it's been bandied as some fresh concept in recent times. But what I see we have, really, I will call it a default rather than a deliberately designed architecture. Yeah, because ordinarily, a security architecture should actually start from the grand strategic level, as where policies are made, from policies to strategies, and of course the accompanying structures, and then of course institutions. Then you have processes, procedures, and routines and drills for doing everything, down to the lowest level of in the tactical level. That's what it should be. And I know for us, I haven't been part of this. I've been in this for about 50 years of my life. So either as a tangential participant, as a boy soldier in the military school in Zaire, as a trainer, as a student, as a keen observer, and as an active participant. So all through those 50 years, I've gone through that, and I know that there has been an evolution through the years. There was a time the country didn't even have a national security strategy.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Yeah, no way. It's not a matter of being bad. It's a matter of a growth of a nation. But from the time the nation got independence, the level of knowledge of the most senior people at the strategic level certainly is not the same like what we have today. Of course, we didn't. At the beginning, we didn't even have an academy. The Nigerian Defense Academy was just, established in 1964. So it tells you that there are a number of generations of further officers who went to, academies abroad. Okay, and then of course after we had that, it also took us time to have our own National War College, which later became National Defense College. So of course, knowledge has grown and capacity has grown over the years as to, issues that got to do with strategic level. So the idea of having a national strategic security strategy. In fact, the first one that happened was what was called Grand Strategy for National Security, which was birthed during the reign of President Obasanjo. He was the first leader of the nation to ever craft such a thing. So we've come a long way, and knowledge has increased. So the same way our skills and capacity to deal with such things has increased. So that's how it is. So of course, even what we now have, we have the second national security strategy. The first was in 2014. The one we have now was the reviewed one in 2019. And that is it. That's just the second. If you remember in 1986, when it was called Security Services Act, 1986, the one that de-established National Security Organization, NSO, from which SSS, that's the State Security Services, Department of State Services, then the National Intelligence Agency, and then the Defense Intelligence. Those three were created as the NSO was de-established. They were established. And that act itself has not seen any review since then. But thank God for the national security strategy that then came up. So these are instruments and structures that ought to be in place and that will be reviewed, regularly as stated in those documents. And of course, the experiences will then help to update issues. And of course, global happenings, global environment, global technological advancement, military technological advancement, all of those will have some bearing in reviewing these things. So there's obviously a need to revisit this, so that in the face of the kind of challenges we have now, we should have, the review has to be very, very often, so that we can be up to date.
Okay, so is it a case of Nigeria not having some of these strategies in place? Is it a case of Nigeria as a country developing these strategies late? That's why we have the security challenges at this time.
Like I said, since the last 10 years now, I said the first national security strategy was 2014. It was reviewed in 2019. Actually, by the document, is due for review every 5 years.
Okay.
That's usually stated in the document itself. So that's okay. We've done well as far as that is concerned. Where we need to work harder, obviously, is the review in the face of emerging threats, emerging and foreseeable and contemporary threats. All of those must be kept in focus to necessitate the further review. And then of course, it's not just the review of the document alone, the update of the capacity of the security sector as a whole, the equipment and state of the art gadgets that are available, because everything goes together. It's not just the document in isolation. It must go pari passu with the capacity of the security sector, the equipment available to them, the technology available to them, the update on those. All of those come together to update it. That's why I say we need a more deliberate design that will be updated more regularly as the challenges we require.
Okay, so are we mature enough to develop all of these templates you're talking of, or do we need to look outside?
No, there's nothing to look outside for. We have, I can talk for the armed forces where I've been, all my life. We have more than enough capacity. Our problem more often than not is not about capacity gap. It's more about, maybe that takes me to the second point, the national will to solve certain problems. Because you can have people with capacities around you and you don't make the best use of them. And because you are not, perhaps that's not the direction you are looking at. Maybe you have some other priorities, or what is getting at others are not getting at you. Or you are not even on the same page with Nigeria as a whole. We have a situation where we can have a set of leaders whose focus is totally different from the national need and the urgency of the national need. Of course, every leader comes with a taint of his own peculiarity. Maybe what becomes, a priority for a particular regime may not even get the attention of another regime. But when it comes to security, being, a major part, a major purpose of governance, I don't see why it should be.
Okay, so you talked about the fact that our problem is not that of capacity gap. We have the personnel, we have the manpower. Now, you talked of the will. Would you say that as a country we are fighting this insecurity the way we ought to fight it? Now, if you have an engagement with an average civilian out there, he or she will tell you there's this impression among Nigerians that, money is being pumped to these agencies, but of course, they are not prosecuting the war with the right equipment. For instance, there was a time about a year ago, it was in the public domain in Nigeria that we were prosecuting war against insurgency, terrorism. In the 21st century, with T-79, we perhaps suggest that some of this equipment were bought, were procured as far back as 1979. These are, stores in the public domain.
Okay, I'm sure you mean T-55, not T-79. T-55. Okay, that was the one we proclaimed in the early 80s. Yeah, of course, but soon after that, since the insurgency, we have bought a T-72, so that's actually not even much of a problem. Well, when you look at it, in terms of, like I said, in terms of capacity is not the problem. Yes, in terms of equipment, there's need to update always because technology moves up these days ahead of human needs. I mean, in those days they used to say necessity is the mother of invention. But today, what is said in the technology cycle is make it and we find use for it. Because the thinkers, the technological thinkers, are actually ahead of human needs. In fact, they now create a use and then think back what will we need it for. That's the way technology is today. But I think the what has taken us aback really is maybe we didn't have sufficient foresight or foresight, if you like, in terms of our assessment of future tasks or future threats. Let's even start from threats. Future threats. Because at the time, if you remember when the military left the leadership scene of the nation in 1999, or the natural tendency to say, oh, the military has been away from their primary duty, let them just face that and leave politics alone, which is good, which we are enjoying it. But that would have been a good time to also review what are likely to be future tasks, future threats, and what kind of war do we see our armed forces fighting the next 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years. That's our nation's plan. And then you then look at what kind of a keeping policy you need to come and, future, looking at that future. And then so you begin to re-equip your military accordingly. Okay, like you talked about tanks. Tanks, of course, are becoming increasingly de-emphasized because, I mean, the nature of war itself is changing. We are living at a time where interstate wars are becoming rarefied situations. They are becoming scarce. They are beginning to have more intrastate, conflicts, which is what we have. So, and for those kind of conflicts, you really don't need so much of heavy armament. You need swift, fast, hard-hitting strike, equipment, to fit those kind of conflicts. So that's what we should have done, and then we would then have been prepared for the kind of challenges we are facing now. But perhaps that was not well done, but it's never too late if we are willing. Okay. Now, you talked about budget. Let me just say a word about that. When I hear that, I just laugh because more often than not, people who say that, they're just repeating what they hear other people say. If you look at the defense budget, what is important is the capital vote. There's the capital expenditure. The vote put on that is less than 15%. It's just about 13 point something percent of the current budget, and it has never been better than that, even the previous budget. And because people don't really get the proper picture to know that military equipment are very expensive. Oh, you saw the other time we got the president, put aside $1 billion. All we were able to buy with that is just the Tucano planes. Nothing else.
Okay, so there is this issue around this Super Tucano.
So let me finish that.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that because military equipment and armament are very expensive. So when you have a budget where your total capital expenditure is less than 15%, what and what will that buy? When people say, oh, there's also billions of of money is budgeted for the military or for the security sector as a whole, they are not looking at it in terms of the different components. They're looking at it holistically. And the larger part of that is actually, got to do with the monument and recurring expenditure and all that. Not the one that can actually acquire, the capital, expenditure that can acquire armament and all that. But you need much more than what we're getting.
And then when you consider that fact, you begin to ask yourself whether the problem plaguing the political space is already affecting our security architecture, as it were. If less than 15% is what we actually expend on, capital, maybe purchase of hardware and all that, so that we spend 75% on recurring emoluments and all that, then you begin to ask yourself, these are the challenges confronting our political space. We complain that we spend more money servicing our presidential system of government and all that. So would an average Nigerian be right to conclude that way?
No, sure, but it's usual. There's nothing unusual about that. The only area perhaps that we can say is peculiar to us is In the political area, it's totally different because, if you look at the fact that we are spending almost 70 something percent for running costs for recurring expenditure, yeah, that's so too. But for the military anywhere in the world, nobody runs its military on this single envelope, as one means of funding. No, you create several means. You create maybe security trust fund. Maybe you bring the military research and development under what they call the statutory transfer, which is usually taken off from before the envelope is shared, where you have the National Judicial Commission, the National Basic Education, the National Assembly, and all that. You bring them back. So you create multiple inputs. So that way you can get more money to meet the requirement. But if it's just based on one line of the single envelope you are giving, of course you can't do much with that.
Okay, so maybe you help us speak to these facts. There are many insinuations out there, especially among the civilians. Whilst the country is grappling with this insecurity, there is this impression out there that the top echelon in Nigeria's security architecture, they are actually, growing fat and maybe fatter. To the extent that you begin to ask, there is this suspicion, some persons are actually sitting on this paltry money, which normally is not enough at the detriment of the nation's security.
Well, I'm happy you say it's an impression. More often than not, popular impressions are not based on facts. They're just perception. Some people say perception is real, but perceptions that are not founded, not on facts and figures. In budgeting, you don't veer one head to another head without authorization. So if money is meant for a particular thing, you spend it for that thing. You can't veer it to another head without going through the required.
The reasons?
No, sure, it happens. More often than not, you don't even get all the money budgeted in the first place. There's what they call cash backing. There's all of that. You can have a budget that say you have 20 billion, just for example. And maybe for that whole year, all you get is 10 billion. In most cases, actually either not enough to fit what you had budgeted for. Talk less of having extra to now plow to another head entirely. It hardly happens these days. Of course, we know that there's global, financial crunch. There is global financial stress. I don't want to use the basic economic words. Just to let you know that it's not really peculiar to us. Perhaps maybe these challenges are coming at the wrong time. If we had this kind of challenges when the boom was there, we would not have felt it the way we are feeling it. But they are happening at the time when we actually need more resources to even meet basic needs. That's the thing. But you see, one of the things I've said again and again, that also a large part of this that is self-inflicted. Self-inflicted in the sense that there are many things we can do to reduce this effect that we are not doing.
Okay, so we'll be looking at those things.
Yeah.
And let's start right away. Experts like you would advise that it would be good when you're talking of security. It would be good for an individual, even for a country, to be preventive, to go preventive rather than be reactionary. What preventive measures do you think Nigeria can come up with at this time to stem the tide of insecurity?
Yeah, I love that question. When you say preventive measures, mean things we could have done preemptively or upfront, which some of them may look too late now. But it's never too late as long as it can have some effect, at least a palliative effect, if nothing at all. Yeah, like I started by talking about security architecture. If that had been put in place before these challenges, started happening, then we would have been able to test the robustness and resilience and sustainability of such a system, an entire security system. And because every nation goes through that kind of test, and at the end of the day, it's able to now tell you either what you have put in place is sufficiently resilient to withstand such stress. Now, because what we had, like I said, is a default, security architecture, hence, it's not able to stand in the face of such tests. But it's never late. There are lessons to be learned. Every nation learns lessons from every encounter, every situation. the nation goes through, so that subsequently you get to do those things better. Now, why I say it's self-inflicted, that more often than not, we don't learn sufficient lessons in our own case. We find that things we've been doing since the 60s, we still do them as if we are doing them for the first time. As if we've not learned anything all the while for all the number of years we have done them. And that only happens in government circles. It's not that Nigerians are not smart. It just happened that I think everybody has a different opinion when it comes to government. It's like everybody's job, nobody's job. And people don't put the same effort, the same commitment they put into private sector, into government business. And so that's why I say that is self-inflicted. Apart from that, when I say self-inflicted also, you find situations where those who ought to deal with certain issues, and that they have some clash of interest, clash of pursuit, or so that the action they will have taken that will have ameliorated the thing at the lower level, they allowed it to fester. And then by the time everybody is getting their awareness, it becomes too late to deal with. And then you have to either spend more or do more than you would have done if you have attacked it at the fifth stage.
Now let's look at the security challenges that we have. There is this impression that a particular sect, a particular group, ethnic group in the country is responsible for the crime that we have. Earlier on today, I was having a discussion with someone and the person was pointing out the danger in this. We know that now people carry out, all these crimes, they pretend because a particular ethnic group has been labeled. What will you say about this?
That's a very tricky and touchy area. Strictly speaking, there are bad eggs everywhere, whether ethnic or tribal or religion. There are bad eggs everywhere. But personally, I don't believe in typology, labeling anybody based on a few bad elements or bad eggs. But when it goes beyond that, in Yoruba we talk about omoluabi ethos, where even your own parents will bring you out and cane you for delinquency, for a bad behavior. Even though, in fact, I remember in those days that if somebody comes on to report you to your parents, just to make that person really feel justified, your parents will beat you in his presence before he leaves, so that he knows that he did a good job, rather than condoning it. Okay, so usually if there are bad eggs, I remember when I was commanding on Operation Safe Haven, I used to challenge the father. I said, excuse me, the only way I can absolve you of any blame is that your son is misbehaving, is beyond your control, and you have tried your best, you can't handle it. I said, good, send him to me. I know what to do. I had a program for the youth, a kind of reorientation program. We did it several times, and kind of little empowerment scheme and all of that. And the challenge I was throwing to them in essence is that if you have not exhausted the option of you reprimanding your child, and if it goes beyond that and you have not brought him out to be disciplined or to be helped by the arrangement that is made available by government, then it means you are condoning it. So condoning bad behavior is actually one of those things when I say self-inflicted. Now, so if the elders of any group at all know that your children are being accused of so thing, and you do nothing to show the rest of the world that you are not condoning it, then of course people will be justified to insinuate such labeling and a conclusion.
But what happens in a true sense when the father does not know that his child is actually engaged in such crime?
No, that's clear. That's clear from the explanation I made. That if the father is not aware, it's a different thing. Of course, then the people who are making such label will first of all have the responsibility of reporting such a child to the parents before they can start labeling. It's when they report and they see that the parents have done nothing, not even a simple reprimand, then they know that the father is condoning it.
Okay, let's look at a case at hand. There was a massacre in Ayoola, and two governors came out saying, no, I think it's speculative And of course, the government actually gave a direction. The people find it difficult to believe the government. When you have such a thing, what could be wrong?
Well, this is the way this thing runs. When you're in position of authority, your preoccupation is how to make peace, how to play down incidents. Incidents are played down not because the government wants to lie all the time. It's just a basic thing that as a government, you want to reassure people. You don't want to create panic. You don't want to exacerbate the situation by your own reaction. So that is basic. But of course, there is a point we get to when the realities are clear to everyone and nobody is left in doubt as to what the situation is. At that point, you can't hide behind a finger anymore. So that happens often. Now, when there's an incident, usually there are processes for, first of all, trying to identify. You first of all gather all the sin, provided the sanctity of the sin is maintained. You want to gather all the tracks that you can get from the scene, all the intelligence bits and pieces that you can get. And then, of course, it takes time for you to analyze, to collate, and analyze, and then be able to make some conclusions before you disseminate. But of course, the speed of doing that will vary from incident to incident. The government anywhere in the world still has the greatest access to information, to intelligence at the end of the day. Of course, how they manage it is a different thing, but it's in a normal setting where you have the intelligence community that goes beyond just the government agencies. There are private sector intelligence, experts who have their own outfits and who gather intelligence, who also have very good, credible sources and reliable intelligence to contribute, to the pool. I've always been an advocate of widening the intelligence community of the nation to include such outfits and such persons who are known to be experts. There are too many specialization areas in the security sector, so that all of the society approach to solving problems is what I'm talking about, where people contribute their own quota to whatever, to what helps the government to solve problems. Okay, so when you have all of that, the aim is that at the end of the day, the government has enough in a quantum of intelligence to be able to make certain conclusions. And you had the Minister of Interior when he was saying, it wasn't too categorical, and sincerely, that's the reality. Especially when you have not exhausted all the processes of intelligence, So he said he points, to ISWAP. He also said it's suspected to be ISWAP. Okay, I don't think we have had any further pronouncement from government since then.
Not at all.
Okay, so yeah, the good thing again is that intelligence too is often local, particularly when an incident is localized in a place. There may be other points and pieces of information that even government agencies may not have known. So if the people in the locality have additional such information, then they pass it on. Because it's a puzzle. No one single piece tells the story. It's when you put the pieces together that you get the bigger picture, and then you're able to make conclusions.
Okay, so what are we doing wrongly as a nation against these criminals disturbing the peace of the nation that has made the problem intractable?
I think the start point is for us as a nation, for all of us to be on the same page.
We are not presently.
Yeah, because when we are not on the same page, where there is division, that's where you got the word division from. When there's more than one vision, when there are multiple vision, multiple interests, you are not too sure what you see as some aggravated security situation is being seen by another person as maybe an advancement of his own cause or his own interest. That's a major problem we have. We have a clash of aspiration, clash of vision, clash of civilization, clash of culture, of course, clash of interest. And that is plaguing us in all directions. So you find, I experienced that even as a commander in the field, where you have an assignment to do and the operation you want to carry out is in a sector and you don't trust the commander in that sector, and you send a different commander to go and operate in the sector because you are not sure that the information will not filter to the enemy.
It happens.
It does happen. Even happens till tomorrow. And that's why a commander must know his men. You must know your subordinate commanders. You must know what you can use them best for. Yeah. Based on these clashes of interest, of civilization, of thoughts, of aspiration, of vision. Yeah.
Okay, so if it happens, even on the field on daily basis, should we then be surprised that we are having the kind of results?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That so is the play out to the open that you see.
So what one would have expected that some persons, some earths would have rolled, but in Nigeria that seems not to be happening. This issue of deterrence. When a commander gets to see search, okay, you see something, you say something, that appears to be elusive in the whole scenario, and so it festers.
Yeah, it is. You see, in the security sector generally, and the military in particular, you obey orders. Okay, no matter how passionate you are about an issue, you can't go beyond the order your superior commander gives you.
Even when you see things going wrong?
Well, what determines the wrong? He's still your superior commander. You see, because the military in particular is very hierarchical. Okay, whoever is your commander has passed through where you are before, and okay, he knows certain things more than you. He knows certain things that you don't know. Okay, so the reason he's giving you certain command and putting certain limitations, you may not know. He doesn't have to explain it to you.
And you can't query.
No, you don't query.
Okay, so when Nigerians say that the buck stops on the table of Mr. President, I represent the people, and in my interaction with the people, these are some of the issues that they raise. They believe, Nigerian military, security architecture, security operatives, they have what it takes to nip these challenges in the bud, but that the right order is not being given to the men on the field, and that's one of the reasons. It's a suspicion. How true is this?
No, that possibility has always been there. If you remember, one of the snobs, I don't want to call his name, who was a governor, in Kaduna State before. He resigned from the army voluntarily because he felt he could not obey the orders he was getting in good faith. And so he resigned. That's a gentleman. That's somebody that needs to be honored, needs to be celebrated. And that's the option you have as a military officer. If you feel that there's a clash, between the legitimate orders you are getting and what is legitimate, okay, you have the choice to decide whether you want to continue if your conscience will permit you, or you want to bow out honorably.
Okay, so I give you an instance. People are kidnapped on a daily basis, and yet the federal government have placed some, phone lines, have barred some phone lines, and Nigerians are asking, these people that are contacting the families of the abductees, how are they going about it? It's one of the, examples that an average Nigerian, because Nigerians too, irrespective of their background, they sit down, they do some analysis. It may be that of a layman, but they can't fathom it that, having asked them to register their SIM, some persons can call out, some can receive calls because their lines have been barred, and yet you have people operating at will, with telephones, with phone numbers. Then they begin to suspect, maybe there are ulterior motives or some saboteur somewhere, or the willpower is not there on the part of, relevant authorities.
Yeah, that's a little sensitive one there. Where I have the background of telecoms as a signal officer, so I understand what they're saying. The telecom industry is a privatized one, so the government does not control how the operators run their business. But apart from regulation that is done by NCC, if there are issues of whether somebody's line being bad, it doesn't require government, unless of course if there's a case and somebody is being investigated, and there's a request, there's a line for making such request to the operator to either produce certain, evidences or something, or to hold something, that's it. But that happens rarely. I mean, that would be that there's actually a case and certain investigations are going on that relates to the use of telephone. But other than that, it's not government business to know whether MTN or Airtel is banning somebody's line.
And that people are also making calls. Okay, let's move on. The nation seems to be preparing for 2023 general elections. Now, the atmosphere, it reminds me of what someone said, that how come political parties successfully will conduct their primaries, no witches, churches will be attacked. Political parties where one would have thought, okay, this is the gathering of those, that literally are not doing the right thing, they don't get attacked. So we know that in 2015 there was election in Borno State. In 2019, before these elections, it was as if heaven will fall and all that. 2023 is coming. We're preparing for elections. How conducive is the environment security-wise for this election? Do you think it is wise for us to keep on preparing without solving some of the security problems that we have?
Okay, thank you very much. I think you actually answered it when you gave the example of 2015, 2019. In fact, as 2015, this fear was there too, that will the election hold or not?
And the nation had to postpone it.
Yeah, and
for about 2 weeks.
Well, even the postponement, if you remember, was not because of security issue, really. There were some other issues. So the point I'm making in essence is that Nigeria has passed through that kind of phase severally, where it will look that it's heating up, and no smoke happens. We've gone through that a number of times. It's as if when it comes to time of election, the bad boys themselves recognize it,
and so it first the suspicion again that maybe some of the security challenges are political undertone.
Yeah, security and political issues are inherently intertwined. In fact, more of it, if you look at the insurgency, for example, it's more of a political problem than a security problem. When I got to the plateau in 2012, I remember I was so determined to say that I should be the last commander of that operation, that I would solve the problem to the end. I was super determined. I was working my heart out, barely sleeping for 3 to 4 hours in the day. Sometimes I'm still in the office at 12 midnight, but as I got to understand the issues better, I saw that it was not a security problem. It was not. You can do all the security, deploy all the security solutions. If a problem has a political undertone, it can only be finally and decisively be solved by political means.
Okay, so on politics being involved on the part of the people here, or on the part of those who should provide leadership?
See, it's inherently so. That's why Karl von Clausewitz says that war is the continuation of policy by other means. Or Chamama even puts it in a more pungent way, that war is politics with bloodshed, while politics is war without bloodshed. So politics and crisis or war have always been intertwined. It's not today. Yeah.
You said something.
But you see, the willingness, the political will, the strength of the political will to solve a particular problem, to deal decisively with it, to bring it to an end, is where the difference is.
You made reference during the course of this interview to what happened in 1999 when we had a change of guard, from the khaki boys to the civilians. Was any mistake made at that time that this nation is still suffering from? Hijacking power, not forcefully, taking over power, this winners take it all attitude by the civilians. Is it affecting, is it telling on the nation at this time? Is there anything we didn't get right in 1999 that we are suffering from?
Very good question. Not just not getting it right since 1999. There are things we have not gotten right since 1960. It's following independence. Nigeria is a multinational, multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic country. Now, we have not decisively, tried to craft a nation state out of this multinational entity.
Is it possible?
Of course, that's what nations like America did. That's all nations that are multi in these different dimensions I mentioned. That's the way they craft nation. A nation state is crafted. So that you look at those things that are common to the different, they are always common. I mean, we're all human beings. There's one human race. So there are sufficient commonalities that we can identify. And once you bring those to the fore, you elevate them to become what we call core shared values. That we can ignore the differences, we can put those things aside and focus on those set of shared core values that we all agree on, that the man in Sokoto will be willing to die for, the man in Lagos will be willing to die for, the man in Calabar, in Ayoola. Those things that bring us together. We have not done that with any determination to build that nation state. Okay. And that's why it's been difficult to even talk of national interest. Because national interest more often than not is that the interest of a regime or the interest of a group or interest, that has been the problem. Okay. One of the problems.
Let's talk about the Southwest region. Specifically, are there challenges you've seen confronting, security-wise, confronting the Yorubas?
Well, the challenges confronting Yoruba race are also confronting every part of Nigeria.
It's not peculiar. There is nothing special.
Nothing really peculiar, but of course, when you talk of it's cause and effect issue. A cause may be the same, but the effect may differ from place to place. Okay, because the Yoruba, we have so much promise from the beginning. I mean, with leaders like Baba Ayoola who set a very high pace for the Yoruba people and made us many firsts in many areas. You find that the Yorubas feel they've been slowed down by the peculiarity of the things happening in Nigeria. And not only that, it has also affected, I talked about the Omoluabi ethos. The decadence in the general society has also affected us. So you see the Omoluabi ethos is also dwindling in the younger generations. The issue of character, ethics, and values that we take very seriously. I remember in those days, your parents will always tell you, run to your humanity, won't you? That's to remind you that, look, the family's name is at stake. You must always remember whose son you are and keep the family's name, the honor, and all of that. Those kind of, societal values also have been affected. Then, of course, apart from that, because the Yoruba are also very highly endowed, intellectually, diplomatically and otherwise, and in skills and all of that. Whatever policies that devolve from the top, we certainly have effect on how far we can realize those potentials.
Well, it appears the Yoruba race is one that is very, very sensitive. Okay, the Yorubas seem to have this attitude of, if it's happening elsewhere, don't bring it here. And that we saw, okay, the reactions that trailed the Owo massacre, the Gangan massacre and all that. Now, how do you think some of these can be forestalled beyond rhetorics of don't bring it near us?
Yeah, let me use this opportunity to appreciate our governors. I remember when they came out with the idea of Amotekun. It was really an ingenious one, and it shows again, the usual thing Yoruba is known for, being first in so many good things. That's one step. I think what I will advise, the Amotekun is good, great idea, but obviously we can see that we need something more
than Amotekun.
And what we need, we have several other components similar. I'm thinking of an integrated security system, self-defense, intelligence network system that takes into cognizance and brings into convergence the hunters, okay, the vigilantes, the different elements of OPC, the Agbekoya, all of those similar self-defense, components that we have. We bring them into a convergence, so there can be, coordination and,
give it a
leadership.
Look.
Really, Amotekun is already a regional one. So, but bringing all of this into one so that the efforts can be coordinated and it will have a better punch than each one operating on its own.
But legal torso, the issue of law, you remember the kind of Amotekun the Southwest governors had wanted to establish was one that would, give Amotekun in Oyo State, for instance, an opportunity to make incursion into Ogun State until the federal government said no, there is no law to back up such and all that. So that you would.
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's part of the area that the federal government didn't agree with. The overlapping responsibility is not even a challenge. I think the lethality of that network, the amount of force they could be empowered to use, I think that's the major issue. But that still boils down to the issue of sub-national policing policy of the nation.
Okay.
I think.
Which is the next thing I want us to talk about. State police, community police.
Section 214 of the Constitution makes it clear that there shall be a police force. And if it has stopped there, maybe we'll have found a way around it. But it went further to say that no other force shall be established.
So that's
it closes the possibility
of having another one. So
and that's why we've been talking. Yeah, that's why we've been talking about restructuring. I'm national chairman of Restructure Actualization Movement. It's one of the areas we've been, advocating, and I think the need for sub-national policing is already well underscored. I don't think anybody is in doubt as to the benefits that will come out of it. Some people have some puerile argument and say, governors will misuse it. Excuse me. I mean that everything else can be misused. So if you use the argument of misuse or abuse, then you won't do anything at all. But there's nothing in the world that cannot be abused or misused.
So state police.
Yeah. So for me, not even beyond state, sub-national policing down to the level of the wards. That's what existed. That's what makes a federal state. Because we got into this centralized thing, we forgot that we are supposed to be running a federation. What makes it federation that the federating unit have the freedom to do all of these things. And it has happened before. It's not a new thing. It's not as if it's strange. They were importing it from somewhere. That was what was wrong between 63 and 66. So it's not new. It's not strange.
Okay, so what's your advice to the federal government in this regard? Because it appears the federal government does not really want to devolve. The federal government is skeptical and all that as we wrap up. Yeah,
I like that. When I hear a lot of elites discuss the issue of restructuring, I look at the fact that they say it with respect to those who are in power now. But the truth is that we are all the same. The typical black man has a KBAC mentality. This kind of feudal mentality where you want to hold power all to yourself. You don't want to devolve power. You feel like you are shooting yourself on the foot if you devolve power. Everybody can say it. I can bet you some of those who are advocating restructuring that if you make them president tomorrow, they say, wait. When you remind them about the restructuring, they say, wait, we'll do it next year. Power is so sweet with us that we don't want to let it go. And because we've stayed in that state for so long, it's become increasingly difficult to develop power.
Let's wrap it up with this call for the debate as to whether citizens should be allowed to defend themselves or not. On the social media a few days ago, you see people going to church with guns and it's gone viral. It's very funny, but it underscores maybe what the people really want at this time. So, self-defense, would you rather have the government allow the people to bear arms? What's your own concept of self-defense?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a landmark question because we have the example of the U.S. staring us in the face right now. How Americans, particularly the Republicans, have jealously guarded that Fourth Amendment law to bear arms. And when you look at the system like theirs, as structured as it is, you can still see the fallouts of that policy. Now, when you now come home and imagine the porosity of our own system, the near zero system that we run, if you allow people to bear arms, how well can you? We have not even been able to solve the problem of having identity. If I ask you for your national ID now, not many people have theirs. For how many years we have been on it? So if you don't have national identity, then you allow people to bear arms. How do you track them? How do you know who is bearing what?
People are dying.
People, some of our houses and streets are not numbered.
But the difference between these criminals that are killing people at will and the people is just that.
It's a choice between the devil and the deep blue sea. Because if you say, okay, because of that, let people bear arms, are you going to have more problems or more solutions? I'm not saying as a thing is a utterly bad thing. No, but I'm saying there's a level of maturity and a level of functionality in the society that will enhance such a thing. For now, I don't advise. Yeah, we'll bring that one day when we can really account for one another sufficiently to be able to now allow such things to happen. Of course, self-defense, like you say, is a natural right, is a divine right, is an international right. You know, Article 51 of the UN, defends it and all of that. But every right is usually implemented to the point of which is possible where you are.
And also a big thank you to you, Retired General Harry Ayoola. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an interesting time with you on the program. That's why we're going to draw the curtain on the program today. I'm sure that our government has actually been enriched with all of these, that General has raised. Thank you so much once again for your time. I'm Ayoola Day. We'll meet you on the program. Same time, same station. See you.